My name is Lloyd Barnett. I was in Company C, 137th Infantry, 35th Division, an old Kansas National Guard unit. And I served as a first scout, as a runner, and as a radio man, all as a PFC. And after the war, I was promoted to corporal, an armored artificer. We was in a forest and we approached the Moselle River, 21 miles below Nancy, France. And they were throwing airbursts, phosphorus and air smoke, and the phosphorus burned some of us. I got a little burn on my leg, but I was laying in a mud hole with two other men and I wallered it out. But we couldn't get across the river, and we called for the engineers, and they come up and put us a rope across the river after dark. And we crossed the Moselle River in the dark and went up the embankment up to a rocky cliff. And the lieutenant and myself, I was a radio man at this time, the lieutenant and myself stopped there at the bank. All the platoon, of course, there with us, but we could hear Germans running above us, about 8 foot above us on this bluff. And we just laid quiet, didn't dig in or anything, just couldn't. Next morning, tanks came across the river, and we loaded on the back of tanks and went around the enemy. We knew where they were, so they skirted us around to the rear, and we got into the back of them, shot a big ammunition dump and blew it up, and it went for a day or two before it ever quit, blowing up ammo. But we got down in the valley, I guess about a mile from this ammo dump, and my tank that I was riding got hit on the turret somewhere, and the shrapnel hit me in my forehead up there. From the shell or part of the tank, I don't know which. And I had blood, you can imagine, just all over. This eye was shut. I guess I was pretty rough looking. I told those men, the tankers, 5 of them, they said, we don't know anything to do. We don't care about rank or anything else. You tell us what to do and we'll do it. And there was a boy there that outranked me, and he said, any of you don't do what he says, talk to me. But anyway, we decided to just walk down the road, single file, behind the enemy lines, headed for our own artillery. And got half a mile, quarter mile, I don't remember how far. Distance didn't mean anything. But a German SS trooper jumped out of the ditch, and just training, it wasn't me being a hero, but just training, you automatically defend yourself. I come over and knocked his gun out of his arms, Before I could shoot him, these 5 tankers was on top of him. And they mauled him good with their tanker boots. And I finally got him to quit. We washed his face and got him up in a single file with us. The tanker said, let me walk behind him. And every 10 or 15 feet, he'd give him a nudge with his foot, and move it along. You're talking about the boy in the hedgerow. I can't tell you whether it was 2 months, 5 months. We were still in the hedgerows. That's just all I can tell you. And we fought from hedgerow to hedgerow. And every hedgerow we got to, we could look over and we could see the Germans where they had been dug in, but that wasn't good for us. We're going on that side. But we got to this one hedgerow, and we were pinned down by two machine guns with them shooting crossfire across our field. And they put me on guard. Of course, we had a guard every 15, 20 feet, I guess, up and down the hedgerow. And I pulled me bushes and got me a sight big as my head, or like that I could see the hedgerow, you know, on the other side. The hedgerows could be 300 to 500 feet apart, within that most of the time. But I'd been standing there on guard and watching the other hedgerows, watching for movement, any movement. And so, well, same as the others on up the hedgerow, I'm sure, but this friend of mine said, Barnett, let me relieve you. You've been there a long time. And I said, well, I'm all right. I wasn't doing anything but standing, you know, propping against the hedgerow. He said, no, get down, I'm going to relieve you. And within a minute, it wasn't a minute, but within the first minute, they popped him right between the eyes, through that little hole that I hadn't made, you know. So I know, I know in my heart, and I know for sure that that gun was sighted right between my eyes, and I just moved, and within less than a minute he was in the same position, and they got him. And it was meant for me. I don't doubt that at all. But that, he fell in my arms, and I had a good friend, Catholic. He had given up priesthood. He was nearly finished, you know, studying to be a priest. And he said he didn't feel right about it, and he gave it up and come into the service. And I believe now, with all my heart, and I always have, that the good Lord placed that one man there. He was the best morale builder, you know, and he was always where he ought to be. Just a staff sergeant. But he come over to me, and of course I was upset. I asked him why that, you know, hadn't happened, and how soon it happened after I'd gotten down. He said, I know it all. It was meant for you, no doubt about it. But he said, we can't do anything about it. He won't have to worry about it anymore, you know, fighting and all, trying to make me feel better. And he quoted a scripture. And I've got that marked in my Bible right now, and I've always remembered it. But the scripture says, there's none greater than a man that'll give his life for a friend. And that boy gave his life for me. I know this scripture now is talking about Jesus Christ who gave his life for all of us, but this boy gave his life for me without a doubt.